Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a juicy story, and you'll see why as we go along. Our OP in the first story turns out to be a master of malicious compliance. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Sorry about your strawberries. I work in a food distribution warehouse for a national grocery chain. My job is to drive an electric pallet jack with a 3-pallet capacity around and stack boxes onto them in such a way that they can survive being shipped. All of us who've been there longer than about 30 minutes have learned that in order to do this, we have to group the cases roughly by size in order to make a manageable load. This usually means that the cases from one aisle get scattered across all 3 pallets. Well, the stores had this great idea that they should be able to bring one pallet out onto the floor and have only the cases that go in that aisle on the pallet to make stocking easier. A couple of our higher-ups who hadn't set foot in the warehouse for more years than I've been working here had this delusion that if we would only finish one pallet before starting the next, this request from the stores would be magically fulfilled. Now, they don't pay me enough to be able to actually shop in these stores, but somehow I doubt there's a pasta/canned corn/peanut butter/pudding aisle, which is one of the many fascinating combinations you get when you try to stack things that way. But I digress. These higher-ups just recently passed the finish the first pallet before starting the second idea as an official policy and claimed that reorganizing the warehouse was phase 2 to come at some undetermined date in the future. In the meantime, if we don't want a write-up, we have to follow the policy. I was working in the produce section of the warehouse a couple days ago and picked up an order that started with 2 thin, fragile layers of strawberries on the bottom of what was to be a 7-foot-tall pallet. This could be interesting, I thought, as I followed my headset's instructions to go to the next aisle. It was possible that the rest of the order could be light stuff like cut salads and mushrooms, so maybe things would be okay. I come around the corner and my headset directs me to the slot with the 36-pound cases of grapefruit and cheerfully tells me in her little computer voice, "Pick 30. Say again, I asked. Bravo 67, pick 30. Quantity? Maybe I misheard. Quantity 30, pick 30. So, since the official policy was being strictly enforced, I took out my marker and a spare shipping label. I wrote, "Sorry about your strawberries," and put it on the pallet before dutifully stacking over 1,000 pounds of grapefruit on top of them. Then, because my headset's a malicious bee, she sent me to the 50-pound bags of carrots and tells me she wants 6 of those on top of everything else. Watching those little cases of strawberries crush into jam was a fine reward for heaving another 300 pounds of carrots up over my head to cube out the pallet. When they called me into the office today to discuss my stacking choices with the intent of writing me up for uncontained stupidity mishandling products, I simply called up my union steward and pointed out the new policy. But the strawberries were ruined. Policy, union steward shrugs. A 16-year-old stock girl almost hurt herself getting those bags of carrots down from the top of a 7-foot pallet. Policy. What about common sense? Where's it posted that an order worker's common sense trumps corporate policy? After much hand-wringing and sputtering, my supervisor finally asked, "So what was up with the note?" Me. I didn't want them to take it personally. I'm very curious to see how this new policy evolves in the coming days. Those poor strawberries, all they wanted was to be left alone on the plant. But then they got picked. Or maybe they'll be enjoyed by some people who adore strawberries. Nope. Crushed by grapefruit and carrots. What a waste. And our second story. My summer war of passive aggression. I moved into my first floor apartment about 3 years ago to the day. Last winter was the second winter I was here, and I decided to be nice considering Chicago got record-breaking snowfall. Every snowfall, often 3 times a week, I would shovel out spots for my girlfriend who was getting off of work. My upstairs neighbor, who was a little old but had a useless husband, would then guard those spots with traffic cones, a shovel, and myself until everyone got home and took them. One day in spring, we come home to find the cones in the middle of the sidewalk and someone's SUV in the spot that our neighbor's usually in. We parked our car up the block and walked up to the house, scooping up the traffic cones on our way in. Not 5 minutes after we get in, we hear banging on our house door. This always means it's the upstairs since no one can get past the main door. It's loud knocking too, which is unusual. I get to the door and open it to see a woman from upstairs start yelling at me about taking her parking spot. I'm astounded. First, I shoveled the damn thing. Second, she's using my cones to save her spot. Third, why the F is this woman screaming? I finally am able to understand her enough to find out she's accusing me of removing the cones and parking my car there. I tell her no, I haven't been home, and the half-deaf old man bumbles down the stairs yelling that I'm lying and he saw me do it. So I'm looking at him, looking at the old woman, and decide to ignore the old man and tell her, listen, I shovel your spot every day all winter. I give you my cones, and yet I threw my own cones onto the middle of the sidewalk to be taken, walked over them to get into the apartment, and started taking off my jacket? The old man starts yelling about how he saw us from upstairs and knows it was us. I know he's just lying, and logic obviously isn't working, so we get our crap on. My girlfriend and I both walked out, went to the end of the block, unlocked the car door. I gave them the bird because they were watching me from the window, and then we went to Walgreens to get some crap we forgot. A few days later, we had another snowstorm. Surprise! Someone, a little girl, knocked on my door and asked if I could help these old people down the street. I went outside, took a look, saw it was my neighbors, told the girl she was very nice to try to be helping someone who needed it, but they were jerks to me and I will not be helping them with anything, and suggested other neighbors who were not feuding with them. She was a little miffed and didn't understand why I wasn't helping, but they'd been jerks to my girlfriend and I for the last couple of months, and this was basically the final straw. I was no longer going to do anything for them. I gave them free internet for their grandkids. I fixed their television wiring when they needed it set up. I shoveled their spot, mowed the lawn, and not even a cute 12-year-old girl with pigtails trying to help an older person was going to get me to budge. The hell with that. No one was in any danger. Their vehicle was stuck in the right side of the road, parked. I just watched and had a good laugh and then went back to playing video games. It was a good 30 to 45 minutes with darkness and cold setting in before I heard them come in. I could barely control my desire to open the door and ask how their night was. Actually, that's not true, but I kind of wish it was. And our last story. You are supposed to buy all items on the wish lists. This happened in the early 2000s. The guy whose story this is was owner of an internet cafe I used to hang out at all the time, cafe owner or CO. After several years of no contact, CO's extended family offered reconciliation. So he got invited to family events again, like birthdays, hinting to bring expensive gifts. You get the picture. It was very clear they were in it for his money, but at least nobody came right out to ask for cash. In late October or early November, the family mail started to include wish lists for Christmas. The lists included helpful links to online stores. Not only were the items already expensive, buying through the links provided was about 50% more expensive than buying from Amazon and the like. Heading each list was a smartphone, but instead of buying through the links, CO used his business to buy from a wholesaler, then have an advertisement company print his company logo on them. That way he could deduct them from his taxes as advertisement expenses. CO's family didn't like that. His uncle flat out told him he was supposed to buy all the items on the lists and buy them through the links. Why, you ask? Well, for one thing, the items would be shipped directly, and on top of it, they'd get a commission, which is likely why the items are so expensive. His uncle didn't tell the last part, of course. We found that out by taking a look at the website that held the wish lists. Now a word about the way their family mail worked. All the family was CC'd. They simply added their pieces and then hit reply to all. For private conversations, they simply took the CO's mail address off the list. His secondary mail address, think coolguy123@potmail.com, they forgot or didn't associate with him. This way he found out that he was supposed to be uninvited from family Christmas once their little scam worked out. At this point, he vented to me and a couple other patrons present at his internet cafe. One of the guys said something along the lines of, "Book yourself a nice holiday, then send them postcards saying, 'having a good time.'" But CO couldn't close down his cafe during the holidays, as that was when he made a big chunk of his profits. Nevertheless, the remark gave me an idea. One of my internet friends was a crew member on the supply flights to bases in the Antarctic, so we hatched a plan. My friend sent 30 to 40 postcards in a large envelope. CO and I, as well as some other patrons, filled them out by hand, then got them sent back in the big envelope to IF, who put them into the regular mail from Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. Aside from various pictures of the stations, often with polar lights overhead, there were his pictures of wildlife, mostly penguins, but also sea lions and all kinds of whales. The postcards arrived a few days before Christmas, and the family mail exploded. One remark stood out to me. CO is wasting our money on a trip to Antarctica. All in all, they whipped each other into a frenzy, then planned on confronting CO at his cafe, and lay waste to the cafe if he didn't pay up. CO then called the police, who parked a patrol car right in front of the cafe, with a couple of policemen having an eye on things inside. The scene that developed when CO's uncles arrived was almost comical. They tried to talk to him in private. CO told them they can talk right in front of the police. Their little scheme was revealed anyway, as not all the family are swine. Some even warned me. Later, every family member then suspected everyone else of being the snitch. They must have had a really Merry Christmas together. The buying through an affiliate link and getting a commission sounds borderline MLM kind of stuff. Sounds like they were just trying to get him to buy products they were already selling and that they'd receive a part of the profits from. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.